Hey guys, welcome back to a quick impressions video, long overdue impressions video on Uncharted 4 for the PlayStation 4. This is a game that was released in 2016, very highly acclaimed game that it took me a while to beat the game, but I finally did, and in fact it made my it finished on my top 3 games of 2016. Basically, I really enjoyed Uncharted 4. And this video is long overdue. I beat this game already a couple of months ago, but I'm lagging behind on my channel. So I'm trying to play catch up here, but just a quick impressions video on Uncharted 4. Simply put, this is my favorite Uncharted game out of all of them. As you guys know, I'm a pretty big fan of the series. I have played and beaten every single Uncharted game, included Golden Abyss on the Vita. So I do have a Uncharted series discussion on my channel where I rated all the titles, all the previous titles, and I was very excited and curious to see where Uncharted 4 was going to fall, and I can safely say now that this is my favorite game on the series. Basically due to the fact that the game does a lot of small things that improve over the previous games, that just make the experience very enjoyable. And to add to that, I think this game has a very good story, coupled with just a great character development and overall dialogue and voice acting and whatnot. I think Uncharted 4 obviously takes advantage of the PlayStation 4 and Naughty Dog. As we all know, they're a very talented developer. They took advantage of the PS4 and really made sure that the graphics, the sound of the game were at its top. So I only have a regular PlayStation 4. I don't even have the PlayStation 4 Pro or anything like that. I don't have a 4K TV or anything like that. And I really have to say this game blew me away as far as graphical fidelity. I think this game looks fantastic. But before we delve into that, let's talk a little. Well, the story, I don't want to spoil too much, obviously, like I usually do on my channel. But I do think it's one of the strongest points in the game. The game basically follows the last adventure of Nathan Drake. Basically, that's what Naughty Dog said. This is the last Uncharted game that will feature Nathan Drake. So it puts an end to his, I guess, participation in the Uncharted series, and it does a very excellent job of, first of all, it's another adventure in which you have to go after a treasure. This time, after the treasure for Henry Avery, which was a pirate. So you do have to visit a lot of locales along the story, and the main characters here, obviously Nathan Drake. You have Elena, you have Sully, which is another one of my favorite characters in the series, and a newcomer here, which is Nathan's brother, Sam Drake. Which the story has a certain focus in the I guess the relationship between the two characters, Sam and Nathan Drake. So there's a lot of I guess emotions that go through, and I really like the story because it gives you an insight on the past of Nathan Drake, which it's something that Uncharted 3 already I guess fiddle around with, but Uncharted 4 does does exactly what Uncharted 3 does, and it does have a couple of flashbacks in which you play as a younger Nathan Drake, and you get to see his relationship with his brother Sam, and it's just very interesting to see how Nathan's Drake life has progressed through the years, and from when he was a kid to teenager, and it does have flashback to the other games and whatnot, and then the game ends in a very epic way. I think the epilogue of the game was a very something that I really enjoyed as a personal touch to bring the series to a closure. So obviously I don't want to talk too much, but that's basically the gist of the game. You're after another treasure once again, the Henry Avery treasure. But trust me when I say this, guys, this is a very story-wise, I think is the best out of all the Uncharted games, and it's very much worth checking out for that alone. As far as graphics, the graphics are, and one thing, going back to the story, or I guess this could be part of the gameplay, it's also, this game has a new thing where you have to make the decisions, basically kind of like the Telltale games, where in certain dialogues or parts of the game you have to choose like a dialogue option, but oddly enough, these don't have a final. From what I understand, they don't influence your the ending of the game. So I don't really see the point of those, but they're there, and they make you think, or they make you a little bit more invested in the game, but they're nothing major. Now, as far as graphics, as I mentioned already, Naughty Dog, this is, they worked this game from the ground up for the PlayStation 4. They took advantage of every inch of power that the system can deliver, and they made a fantastic job of, both on the character models, on the textures of the game, on the lighting effects. Everything in this game looks absolutely fantastic. And again, I don't have a PS4 Pro, so I can't even imagine what this game looks like on a PS4 Pro with like a 4K TV. I'm sure this game looks fantastic, but on my regular TV, on my regular PS4, this game blew me away. It's a very colorful game, very colorful, a lot of variation in the scenery of the games. You have jungle environments, you have like cities that you can explore. So you have cities that you visit in different parts of the world. They're very colorful. There's a lot of things going on in the screen, a lot of people. There are driving sections in the game that you're driving a 4x4 vehicle, and you're basically driving on the mud, and the mud looks incredibly realistic. So all the effects, the water effects, the mud, and everything, the graphics in this game are out of this world. So something that I really enjoyed. The gameplay is something that I really want to touch upon, because it's where the game, in my opinion, made more improvements over the past games, and the small adjustments they added one another to provide a better experience, in my opinion. The gunplay is a little bit more tight in this game. In previous games, especially in Uncharted 3, just fell off for some reason, even though they released a patch trying to fix the issue. I do think that Uncharted 4 is just a little bit more tight in terms of aiming and using different guns and whatnot. They got away with the quick time events as far as the melee combat in this game, so that was pretty interesting. But the main thing here is the open, quote unquote, open world nature that open environments that the game gives you. So basically, every time there's a combat sequence, for the most part, the game gives you a little bit more freedom as far as choosing where you're going to attack the enemies, if you want to have a stealthy approach. Me personally, every single time that I could, I use all guns blazing attitude, because the environments are bigger, and it's more fun than previous games to take cover in different areas of the map. And I think that freedom really make the game a lot more fun, at least for me personally. And another fact is that because the environments are a little bit bigger, the game doesn't seem to be as linear as previous games, even though the game is very much very linear. So again, those open environments, I think they did a fantastic job. And one thing that I really enjoyed about this game, and it was my favorite part, was the quote unquote platforming and the climbing sections. Even though they're very scripted and very linear, the fact that this game was able to use a PS4 power just made this game just very fun to climb on top of buildings. When you're in the jungle and you swing from one vine to the other, the vistas in this game are absolutely out of this world. I had a lot of times when I was climbing a mountain, for example, I would just stop and look at the vistas, and the way the camera in this game is set up. You may be climbing a mountain, and your character is very small on the screen, and the camera angle will focus not on your character, but instead on the vistas, on the horizon, on the scenery of the game. So you would see like this beautiful, just landscapes and beautiful, afternoon skies, with the sun going down and things like that. And the game does give you an incredible cinematic feeling at all times, which is something that I really enjoyed. Even though it's a linear, sometimes you just have to push up to have Drake keep climbing up, or up an X to have him jump from one little rock to the next rock. But the way that the camera moves and everything, the presentation is just very cinematic and just very fun to look at. And of course, when you add to the fact that the textures of this game are fantastic, the voice acting, because sometimes there's voice dialogue while you're doing the climbing and things like that. Everything adds together to a very, very enjoyable experience, even though, again, it's somewhat scripted and linear at the very end. In the end, that's the the basically what the game goes after. So it's a very cinematic experience that even though you know what's about to happen, I did find that the game is just enjoyable to play that way. And then of course the sound, not much to say here. The Uncharted games have always had pristine and excellent voice acting and voiced scripts, basically. Soundtrack as well, very very Hollywood-esque, and soundtracks that definitely keep the action, and it's just very enjoyable to have the music, the sound effects, the nature sounds and everything when you're in the jungle and things like that. Everything about this game is very, very real and just very well done. So overall, online multiplayer, I can't really comment, guys, because I didn't really put a whole lot of time into it. But there are other extra modes that you can play besides the single player campaign that will keep you entertained, and they're pretty interesting to have a little bit of diversion or diversity in terms of the gameplay of the game. But overall, I really, really enjoyed Uncharted 4. By far my favorite game in the series. I really enjoyed the cinematic approach that the game has. And again, the previous games, they were all pretty cinematic as well, but this one takes advantage of the PlayStation 4 and just provides a unique, I wouldn't say unique experience, but just a very outstanding visual and audio presentation that really impressed me a whole lot. And of course, again, I cannot stress enough that the story in this game, it's very, very good. The characters, the development among the characters, they really come to life in this game, and it's a really nice way to close down the series, in my opinion. If you are like me and have played the previous Uncharted or the older Uncharted games, you really have an appreciation on what Naughty Dog has created as far as characters and the Uncharted universe. I really, really think that they did a fantastic job, and I really enjoyed the series overall. So those are basically my thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.